With gluteus minimus, I often will release that TFL first because it's just right there. So easy, so accessible. I might hook into the TFL first, and then I'm just going to start walking back. So here we have, let me find greater trochanter, and the iliotibial band. There we go. There it is. So here's the top. If I flat finger palpate across the top, I can feel a thick band of tissue going up and down. That's the very top of the iliotibial band. Gluteus minimus lives just deep to it, and it tends to gather points along that iliotibial band, one really close down by the greater trochanter, and then up. Then I follow up. I might check slightly in front of that iliotibial band, that thickness of the iliotibial band, and then I might go back right around that greater trochanter, the femur, and then if I go up the iliotibial band a little further toward the top of the pelvis, and then back a little. So that's my plan with checking gluteus minimus right here. Again, gluteus minimus is a deep muscle here, and it lives deep to the iliotibial band. There's no way I can just palpate it to see if there are trigger points in it. So I follow the maps and I take my best guesses as far as where I have seen those trigger points time and time again with folks, and just sink in, ask, communicate well, and then move on. Okay. So we're going to start, here's that top of the iliotibial band, and I'm going to get my elbow right into that spot. So I'm going to lay my elbow, I can feel the greater trochanter right there, just behind the TFL where I was before. And then sometimes, as long as I have good trust with my client, I might reach my body across and lean on that other hand so that my pressure can be directly over that elbow in the gluteus minimus. And how's that? I'm not really even sinking very much, but is it tender yet?
I definitely feel.
You can feel that it's probably gonna be, right? Another way to support your body is just put your knee right on the table so that you can be sinking there, but I prefer elbows when I can use them. So now notice that when I laid my elbow down here, I have a 90-degree angle at the elbow. And then if I want more pressure, then what I'll do is start lifting the hand. Already, it's just drove it right in, right? So I'm going to say that again. You start with the elbow open at 90 degrees, and when your client's ready for some more pressure, just lift the hand. Let me know when to stop.
That's good.
That's good. I didn't push. I didn't sink any more deeply. I just kind of drove the point of the elbow down a little bit more. And let me know if it's clearing fine. We won't bring movement in.
Yeah, it already feels better.
Already feels better. Awesome. Great. So here I am I'm through the bottom of the iliotibial band, and I'm up at the, kind of right at the greater trochanter. So I'm going to come out, I'm going to slide up the iliotibial band toward her head a little bit, toward the top of the pelvis. I can feel that thickness of the iliotibial band. I'm not pushing any pressure. I just want to feel that thickness of the iliotibial band. And then I'm with my elbow, I'm going to sink straight down again. Tender there?
A little bit.
So she said a little bit, so we're going to give her a little more pressure. So I'm just going to lift the hand. You tell me when is enough. And that's all I needed. I needed to lift my hand literally a ½ an inch, and that gave her just the right amount of pressure. I'm not working any harder. And I'm just letting my elbow be heavy. And then I'm going to remind my client, breathe in your belly. Perfect. Exhale, heavy bones down to the earth. Yeah, everything gets heavy. The right thigh is really heavy down into the earth. And that left thigh really sinking into the support. Notice your jaw. See if you're clenching your jaw. The jaw and the pelvis develop together embryologically. So when you're working around the pelvis and the hips, it can be helpful to remind your client to relax the jaw. That feels good. That feels like it really has opened. Okay. So now since I'm at that upper spot, I'll show you right where I am. Okay. So here I was right here. I'm through that iliotibial band. Now I want to move back so the points kind of go backward from there. And I can, if I want to lower my table a little bit, instead of using my elbows, I can just use my thumbs. And I can stand right, I get my table real low when I'm doing this. And I just moved right back a little bit. And I can sink straight there. Yeah. And I can feel that. Yep. And she's going, oh yeah, that's really good. And I might use a supported thumb. And then my other hand, just somewhere to be nurturing. And one of my teachers called it the mother hand. Just brings like a real mothering energy to the... And how's that? Is that getting any better? Any easier? Okay. Mm-hmm. And so I'm going to find another spot. I'm going to go back to that top of the iliotibial band. I'm going to do some compression through there because I've done a few points. So I always want to keep my soothing and do some compression along the way. And then I come close back to the greater trochanter again. And this time I'm going to move a little bit behind where I was before, because the gluteus minimus can really gather a bunch of points right around that greater trochanter right before its tendon. So now I'm angling, I'm kind of sinking in. I want to trap the tissue and actually push it into the greater trochanter. That's often a very tender spot right there. And so I just want to keep my arms nice and straight. I use my thumbs next to each other a lot. And if your person needs more pressure, more specific pressure, you just take one thumb away. It doesn't even have to be really pressing in. And then the movement here would be to lift the whole left leg, just begin to lift it up toward the ceiling. So knee and foot together, start to lift. Oh, and then drop it right back down. And I made that sound because so many of my clients make that sound when they start doing that lift. So you got to start to lift that left knee and left foot together. Make sure they're lifting both. Oh, that's so good. And then drop it back down. It doesn't even have to be much. You can see she's not even really lifting it up. We're just engaging the muscle up into the thumb. So let's do that one more time. Start to lift that knee and foot. Don't forget the foot. There you go. And right back down. Nice big breath. Does that feel better? Feels easier. So every time you have a client side lying, just palpate a little bit that top of the hip. Get familiar, really familiar with how it feels, that top of the iliotibial band. Notice that she wants to keep rolling forward, right? Because, of course, one thing you can do is you could take another pillow and support under the pelvis a little bit. If they're rolling a lot, that might help to keep them from not rolling. Also, bending the bottom knee a little bit, so that they have a broader base of support will help them to be a little steadier. And then after I treat that gluteus minimus, I always like to lay, like here's that greater trochanter, I kind of lay my fingers over it so that the heel of my hand is sinking into that glute min, and I just do a nice compression. Let me just take a couple of breaths together. And then because glute min often refers all the way down that outer thigh, I might kind of just do a little bit of soothing all along there. Great. And then now we're going to do that work on the other side. So we always want to start with a little compression. I always want my table low enough so my arms can be straight. As much as possible with my work when I'm doing pressure. So this is not super deep. I'm just doing some nice kind of pumping, compression. It should feel really good. She's nodding, so that's a good sign. And I'm gonna lay my hand over, get the heel of my hand. Here's the top curve of her pelvis, is right around here. So I get my hand in the soft side of the hip, and then kind of sink in, kind of hook that greater trochanter and literally push. It's a little bit of like an external rotation almost. So we're kind of tucking that pelvis open like that. Okay. And then now we're going to get real specific in the points themselves. So the very first thing that we want to locate is the greater trochanter at the top and the top of the pelvis. And then we find in that line, we find the thickness of the iliotibial band. So up here, there's no thickness. It's just like a little valley of tissue is soft. But then as I get here, I can feel, and I want a flat finger, right, for my palpation. And I can rub across there and feel, oh yeah, I can feel the thickness of that iliotibial band going up and down. Right? So gluteus minimus lives just below that iliotibial band. And so we're going to start real close down by the greater trochanter. And for this one, I'm just going to use some thumbs. So I'm going to put my table lower. And I'm going right through that iliotibial band. Tender there. Okay. And then Kayla, start to lift that whole right leg, right knee and right foot, same time. Just a little bit, push right into it, and then drop it right back down. Do that again, please. Push, and drop it right back down, yeah. How's that point feeling? This hip feels like it's clearing faster than the other side, yeah? And so we come up that iliotibial band, just about an inch or so. We want to get end up about halfway between the greater trochanter and the top of the pelvis. And then I'm going to go back to using my elbow, because I just really like to use my elbows more than anything, if I can. And I just kind of lay that elbow right in there. I can feel if I strum gently across without any pressure, really, I can feel that I'm in that thickness of the iliotibial band. So I confirm that I'm in the right place. Now I can just sink. How's that pressure feeling? Nice? Okay. And then I'm going to bend my elbow. I'm going to bend, so add a little bit more. Is that okay with you? Okay, you tell me when it's enough.
That
feels like the good amount. Yeah, great. Breathing in your belly. Really let the right leg get really heavy into the bolster. And that left leg getting heavy into the table. Is that feeling any better?
Yes.
Okay. Would it be helpful, do you think, to do a couple of those leg lifts, or is it fine? Okay, go ahead. Let's do some. Right back down. And again, I mean, she's not even lifting. She's not even clearing the bolster. She can still feel the bolster underneath. There she goes. Nice. Yep. And then, but already her range of motion is increasing. She's adding more. And not that we're going for a big range of motion, but what we see is that as the tension diminishes and the tone, the more even tone returns, we see more of the muscle begins to engage. And so the leg will naturally just go a little higher. They'll naturally go a little further. So now I'm going to back off that pressure by straightening the elbow a bit. And then I just kind of like to lay my arm in there. It feels really good to them to get that nice kind of compression. I can drop my elbow and just do some nice compression in that area. So now I did really close to the greater trochanter. I came up that iliotibial band, the top thickness. Now I'm going to slide right behind that spot where I just was. I'm going to get right behind that spot where I just was. I'm going to sink in. Good there?
I feel it. You can keep going.
A little bit more pressure, okay? So I'm going to just bend my elbow a little bit more. Good? Okay. Now, one of the things you'll see when people start doing movement is that sometimes what they'll do is just when you ask them to lift the leg, they just lift the knee. So Kayla, I'd like you to try that. I'd like you to just lift the knee, keep the foot down. Okay, and drop it back down. Now lift the knee and the foot together. Totally different, right? Mm-hmm. And I can feel when she just lifted her knee, I couldn't really feel the muscle contract because she was really engaging just her lateral hip rotators to do that. So if you're not feeling the muscle engage well as you're holding the point, and this is released significantly, I can feel it's a lot softer under there. If you're not guiding them to lift the foot and the knee, they may miss the foot part, and in reality, they're not really engaging the gluteus minimus. So now our next space to check for gluteus minimus, we walk down toward that greater trochanter. And really, you can just sink all around here. You're going to find all kinds of fun stuff because you got the edges of piriformis and hip rotators and stuff. And we just want to keep our focus. We want to be close down into that greater trochanter and right near the iliotibial bands, tender there, yeah. Because that's where our gluteus minimus is living. So especially if you're working on those folks with hip bursitis or false sciatica types of symptoms, hip weakness, you want to really make sure that you are going through the iliotibial band. You might check slightly in front of it, slightly behind it, but through that top of the iliotibial band, right at the hip joint itself. And Kayla, how's that spot feeling?
It was tender, but already better.
Already better. Mm-hmm. So let's play with that movement again. I'd like you to start to lift that right knee, just the knee. Mm-hmm. See how it doesn't do much, right? Now lift that knee and foot. Oh, there it is. Drop it back down. Mm-hmm. Let's do another one like that. Lift it, drop it back down. Great. Let everything relax, nice and heavy. Mm-hmm. Nice, relaxing. Her whole pelvis just sank. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Relaxing your jaw. And so that is treating gluteus minimus. That nice heavy compression. I'm just giving them a little ease and break there. Okay. And that's treating gluteus minimus, second side.